Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this week's Policy Manthan discussion. I, along with my fellow host Abhiniti, will be coordinating today's conversation. Today's topic is medium of education in schools, opportunities, and challenges. As the topic states, we will be tackling the issue of how education is transmitted, language, methods, and other nuances that differentiate various forms of learning. The topic is especially relevant as of recent times due to changes that will be brought in, and in some states have already been brought in the form of the new national education policy. I hope we're able to have a productive discussion today, and I'd like to ask all the speakers to keep their cameras on and drop their name in the chat box if they're ready to speak. Isha, please go ahead.
Yeah, so good evening, everyone. Am I audible?
Yeah, perfectly clear.
Okay, so I'll start today's discussion by saying that according to 2019-20 report of Unified District Information System for Education, 42% of children in our country study in Hindi medium schools and 26% students are enrolled in English medium schools. And after that comes the number of Bengali, Marathi, and Tamil as medium of instruction. And even though the enrollment ratio of English medium schools is high, the medium of instruction is many of these schools is still Hindi or the local language. Now, according to another article of Rest of World, out of 10 million students who take high school finals in India every year, 65% come from non-English medium schools. But as the STEM education in our country is still provided majorly in English, these students,
Isha.
sorry,
Radha,
but
please
as
mute
the,
yourself.
so sorry,
Radha, please mute
but as,
We
okay, I'll continue. Uh, so, as I said, 65% of the students who take high school finals in India every year, 65% of them come from the non-English medium schools. But as the STEM education in our country is still provided majorly in English, these students face insurmountable language gap. This leads to increase in the dropout rates from the premium institutes, especially for the students belonging to the marginalized communities of the country. The dropout rate is as high as 65%. Also, the students who want to pursue higher education abroad, even they face challenges when it comes to cracking examinations like TOEFL and IELTS. So, after analyzing these statistics, I think that one language of instruction should be followed in schools throughout the country. Firstly, this will fill the language gap. The students that belong to the less privileged areas of the countries will not have to make special efforts to learn a language when they go for higher education. They can simply learn the subject and be on the same level as the students from more privileged sections. This said, I also think that the mother tongue of that particular region should be compulsory subject taught at least in schools. So I think this is the perfect middle way we can make out of the debate of the medium of instruction. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Isha. I think you made a very prudent point where it comes to the medium of the language that we are taught in schools, not really correlating with what higher education is taught in. I think the statistics you showed clearly reflected that. Shantanu, please go ahead.
Hi everybody, good evening. Am I audible and visible?
Yes.
Cool. So for the today's topic, it's a really interesting topic. And as Isha mentioned all the stats, I was about to mention the same. So without going back to those stats, let's go forward what other pointers I wanted to mention. So from the ancient time, from the time the schooling system started, the education system started, there was a same mean of education everywhere. That was our professional language, that was Hindi. Later on, with the invasion of various other countries, we changed it to English. So English later on considered as the main language for the education, for the conversation as well. But as the scenarios are changing, we can see in the government schools of different states, they are following their regional language. Like here in Karnataka, they use Kannada, and same as the other places. For northern states, they use Hindi. For Punjab to Punjabi, and say goes on. But later on, what happens after class 12th, after they are passing their school, they have to go to a college where where the education language is English. And that's where the problem begins for the students who have studied, who has completed their schooling from the regional language. So it becomes difficult for them to understand the curriculum, and it's not like it's difficult much more for them, but it takes much more time for them to understand what's going on in comparison to other people who have already studied from the English. For this, what we can do, we can parallelly ask the or make the curriculum which suits the universal acceptance of the language. Either it can be English, either can it can be Hindi. And now one of the like recent scenario which I saw is that government is releasing its notifications in Sanskrit. That is our the most epic language. So that can also be considered. It depends upon how policies are becoming. So my suggestion for this is one regional language should be continued. With that, the universal acceptance language should also be taught to the students, so that their future studies, their higher studies should not get affected. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Thanks for your point, Shantanu. I think the solution you've offered is very valid. Teaching two languages, one that is universal throughout the country and one that allows people to maintain their heritage, so to speak, would sound like a very prudent idea. Tanya, please go ahead. Also, if anybody else is ready to speak, please again drop your name in the chat box.
So before I start, first of all, like please excuse me for the noise that is coming behind because, anyway, so already Isha and Shantanu, they have covered most of the topics, but again, I won't reiterate the same thing. I just want to highlight few things that since the formation of the constitution, this multilingualism in education is being debated, and this topic is very contested. There is no black and white area. It is very like according to the policymakers, it has a gray perspective, but I have my own opinion that I would want to also give. So according to the constitution, according to the article 350A of the constitution, and as well as the Right to Education Act of 2009, they have emphasized on mother tongue being the primary being the main medium of instruction in the primary to the primary in the primary education. And then the NEP, they have the revolutionary NEP came up, and they have actually pushed the thrust about this delivering education in mother tongue. So according to the national curriculum framework, that is the NEP that they have come up with, that is the new system, that is 5+3+3+4 system. And they have also suggested that mostly that in the foundational stage, that is the 5 years, it should be focused on the entire delivering of education will be on mother tongue. Now the problem comes, now the critical analysis comes here. So I want to ask, like, these things while researching, some questions came to my mind, like, is it the problem is with multilingualism, or the problem is with the entire education system that need to be changed? Like, even if I am like, according to the NEP, that introduction of mother tongue in the childhood days, in the early childhood education, is going to increase the enrollment rate and also reduce dropouts, and also will have improved learning outcomes. But it depends mostly on how the teachers are the delivering that quality of education, be it in any language, maybe in Hindi or in English, does not matter. As long as the quality of education is there, is intact, the outcome will be visible. Second thing is that it will lead to polarization among the students, like students who are actually like mostly the state boards, right, who are focused like who deliver education in mother tongues, and then there are CBSE and ICSE board who strongly adhere to the English medium of instruction. So there will be a polarization where the students from the state boards, they are learning in mother tongue, and the students of ICSE and CBSE, they are learning in English medium, right? And also the third factor that I also want to highlight is that India is an emerging power, and now we have huge inflow of foreign direct investment. So in that case, India's population, since India has a very rich English speaking population, so the students who are taught in mother tongue, they are actually deprived of this kind of employment opportunities. Even if we are talking about preserving the regional language, but when these children are they are as soon as they are like climbing the ladder of education, so they will automatically feel deprived, underconfident, because of not knowing English. Yes, I'm not saying that English should be made mandatory, but also like mother tongue should not be imposed, especially in the foundational stage. Like मतलब ये ऐसा बात हुआ कि like the students are reading about like histories in mother tongue, and soon after class 5 they'll have to shift to another language, because it is clearly mentioned that till class 5 it should be mandatorily medium mother tongue should be used. So yeah, that's it.
Thanks for your points, Tanya. I think you raised a very valid point where language may matter less than how the teacher is teaching. It doesn't matter if the language is Hindi or English if the teacher is just not interested in teaching in the first place. Would anybody else like to give their views, or should we move on to today's questions?
Okay, so I will just add a few points more. So there is no denying the fact that the mother language is the most important for the initial years of education, because it does matter that if the student is he or she is just learning it or actually grasping the things, and when the language is different, when the language is alien, they will just rot learn. They will not understand the things like what we have in primary. In the very early stages we have English rhymes, so what students do is they just rot learn the rhymes, but they do not even know the meaning of those words or those rhymes. So whatever the language that kid used in his or her house, that language should be the first one to be taught. And beside, English is always there as a secondary language. It's not that in schools we are using just one language. We mostly teach in the mother language, but also there are different. English is there every time in the books in the as a secondary language. So till primary, or we can say till the class 8, we can have the mother language, and then we can introduce a other language also. Like, this phenomena is going on, then we should have a 3 language formula. You have heard about it. Like in the North India, it is like we will have Hindi, English, and any other one language. It can be of the southern India or any foreign language. And what happens in the southern India is one language is their regional language, another is English, and then the third language will be any language of North Indian, preferably it will be Hindi. So it is very much criticized in the southern India that they do not want to learn Hindi as a third language because it will be so much burden to learn 3 languages. So we can take this as a for a further discussion. We can take it as a debate topic that should there be 3 language formula or not, and how it should be in the North India and the South India. Because what happens is the North Indians get an edge because they from the very start they learn Hindi and they learn English, and then they have just one more language and they take maybe Sanskrit or something. But for the southern Indians, they have to learn a difficult language, a totally alien to them. So we can have this in our further conversation. Okay.
I think great point you raised, Shraddha, and yeah, we can continue the conversation there. I think the main issue lies with the fact that you're asking one portion of the population to do less work than the other portion of the population, right? Why aren't you asking the north side of India to also learn a language from the south? Why are you only asking the south to learn a language from the north? So that brings up the question, I think. Um, should we promote any regional languages, or should we just go for English? So we can say that Hindi is, a pretty commonly spoken language, but that is, of course, only in North India. In South India, they have a much more diverse variety of languages. Not that we don't have those in North India as well, but they don't speak Hindi as much as we do. So is it correct to say that Hindi is what we should use as a medium of education? Or is it correct to say that English, that is a language that's not even from India, is the way to go? So if when you pick a universal language, that is, how do you think we should pick, the universal language for education? Because I think everybody mentioned, one universal language, one regional language. What should the universal language be?
Well, this debate has also sparked recently when the Language Commission just gave its recommendation where it gave that Hindi should be used most and it should be made a official language and also the national language. In the recent recommendations, they have recommended that in the Supreme Court and High Court, Hindi should be also used. For till now, only English is used in the courts, but now they want Hindi to be introduced. Also, for the civil services, they have called for a withdrawal of English language from the civil services as an optional language.
Mhm.
And in the curriculum, they have been recommending till very long that Hindi should be introduced on the pan India level. But I guess like it's a debate. Some people say that every country should have one of its own language because of cultural aspects, because it will bind people culturally. But I feel that more than the culture, what we need is the practicality and the people's choice. If we impose a language on the southern Indians, what will happen is maybe they will learn Hindi, but they will not learn Hindi by their choice. And it will just create rift between the North Indian and the South Indians, which is actually happening in today's time because South India time and again protest against the North Indians. And language is one of the reason for their protest. So yes, we can take others' view also on this topic, what they feel. Okay.
Yes, thank you, Shraddha. I think, yeah, I think it harkens back to the issue that you mentioned yourself, where it's easy for people who have already learned Hindi to say that, why can't we just universalize Hindi? But in turn, you can say that you're making a unified Indian culture, but you're also suppressing the culture of people who don't speak Hindi. I think let's continue and hear everybody else's thoughts as well. Tanya, please go ahead.
I don't think I'll be able to speak because of the noise.
Oh, okay,
Like,
that's
is it
fine.
like
Isha, please
audible
go
to
ahead
you
then.
guys? No? Okay, then I think yeah, mostly Shraddha has already
Yeah.
uh, okay. So, Shraddha, she has already mentioned the points that I was supposed to raise. But yes, again, in order to implement this mother tongue, the entire system need to be changed. Like we need teachers training from all over again. We need pedagogical changes. We need new learning textbook based on each regional languages, right? And as I have mentioned that it will lead to polarization. Like students first at the age of like till class 5 they are learning in mother tongue, and then after that during the time of their jobs or going to any interviews, the interviewer obviously every other companies are expect they do expect a communication skills in English especially. So at that stage the students they suffer, they are deprived from I mean they do not get job maybe due to a lack of communication skills, English communication skills. So the foundation, if like if we want Hindi as a medium, like one language, then the entire system need to be changed. Like even the recruiting system need to be changed, where every other person should be hired or maybe should be evaluated based on Hindi skills and not English. And if we are doing it English, then the entire thing should be in English. I don't see here any uh, mixed match language application of language, I believe. Yes, the current system, like when I was in school back in 2018, so at that time we had this thing like English was my first subject, and second was Hindi, and third was Bengali. So yeah, we can do, like we can still remain to that position where English should be the medium and second is Hindi, because Hindi is since it's our official language, so it's we need to learn that, everyone should learn that, and then comes the regional language. So that in that way, definitely we are learning two languages, and English should be there in order to get that employability, and and also that is going to help India as a, like we have a huge population. So uh, definitely, like what to say, for employment we need it. I mean the language. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, thanks for your points again. I think it's someone had mentioned practicality. It becomes a point where it's culture versus practicality. You want to preserve culture, but you also want to give people jobs. Isha, please go ahead.
Yeah, so along with the points that Shraddha and Tanya mentioned, I think we should also think about the students who want to apply in, let's say, international universities or the companies that are abroad. So students already do face a lot of problems while doing that. And if we are saying that the medium of instruction should be the regional language or Hindi in school, then it will, I think, discourage those students, and the ratio will even fall. Like they will even face more problems while applying internationally, or they will have to put extra efforts into doing that.
That makes sense, Isha. It will, like you mentioned, I think, right, it was people taking coaching for people having hardship with small English tests like TOEFL and the other one, yes, where again you're having to take separate coaching outside of school to give an exam. Shraddha, please, do you have anything?
Yeah, I was just replying to Tanya that Tanya was mentioning that English should be there because of the employability factor. But as I said, that we do not turning whole the primary education system in one language. Apart from the mother tongue, we are keeping English as a secondary language always in every medium. So it is not that we are compromising with the employability or the English language. We are just we are just giving the understanding of primary base, then the employability, which will come later. First, the understanding should be there, and once the child understands the thing, he or she will understand to comprehend the things. Then another language can be introduced. Till then, we are in favor of mother tongue. Okay.
Good point, Shraddha. I think slightly building on to what was discussed, my next question would be, till when should we learn so many languages? You know, people have mentioned learning three languages, some people have mentioned learning two languages, but I think we all know, for example, in 12th, how high the workload for some students gets, especially if they're in every stream actually, yes. So do you want someone to have three languages in 12th and 11th on top of four other subjects? Or would you say that they should stop learning languages, say in 10th? Because that's usually when people pick one language as universally English. Most people pick English along with other four other subjects, right? So how does anybody have any suggestions for till what point we should teach languages? Should we make it compulsory to learn three languages till 12th? Should we make it compulsory to learn three languages till 10th? Or where do we draw the line? Where do we say that, okay, now you are comfortable with the language? Isha, please go ahead. Sorry, my internet dropped off for a second.
Yeah, so I think that the medium of instruction, let's say language, should be considered only till 10th, and after 10th we should focus on the skills of the students in whatever language they know. The focus should be on skill building. Like after that, I don't think that there is any need of focusing on teaching the students language, because like it's too late. I think in school or in high school the focus should be on the language, because after that it's more important that the student knows this skill that will help him survive in the corporate world, and the focus should not be on language that much.
Um, Great point, Isha. Tanya?
Yeah, so I believe that till class 8, this three language formula should be there, because from class 8, the 10th standards, like people, students start preparing for the 10th standards. The syllabus automatically it levels up. So I think till class 8, like we can focus on language maybe, but not mandatorily. It shouldn't be like the teaching again. I believe that the teaching should be in English, because considering the market, I'll never suggest that the teaching should be completely in Hindi. I'm sorry, because at one point in like in every criteria, like in every job description, you are asking for strong English communication skills, and then how come you are also again talking about teaching language skills till class 10, and or maybe like other regional languages, right? Of course UPSC is there. UPSC, we have like we can do it in Hindi, but I'm talking about mother tongue, right? So also, like even if we opt for abroad, English is required. Any private jobs, English is required, skills is required. So it should be there till class 8, maybe to preserve that particular language, to preserve that particular culture, but not more than that. And after that, skills, I mean skills based education is highly like needed. It's the need of the hour. I believe it should be from the early stages of development, but since we, again, for that, the completing the syllabus, this constant like the teachers are mostly there completing the syllabus, so we need to change, we have to make a shift from there. So yeah, in order to add this, in order to include this skill based education, this so yes, syllabus bhul jana hai wohi. That's it.
I think I agree with you completely, Tanya, when it comes to prioritizing skills that will give people jobs, because as we are moving on, the world is becoming more and more interconnected, and the language that is predominantly used is English. Please go ahead.
Another thing, just I just forgot to mention. So recently, yesterday only, I saw news where the I don't know whether I should be mentioning this or not. The NDA government is focusing on cow education, like teaching the students about cows. So do you think that the allocation of budget for education is only 3%? And if we need to make a shift from this language debate to mother tongue, so we not only require a huge resource for training the teachers, for new textbooks, for other pedagogical changes, and then they're talking about teaching students about cows. So yes, and this is I have confirmed this news. It's there in Indian Express. It's there in every other sites. So like it's very confusing. Things are not clear at all. So I think that another like a discussion, a debate forum should be there about the NEP with all the state governments, because few state governments have also completely refrained from implementing the NEP and all its features in the state. Take the example of Tamil Nadu and West Bengal. So yeah.
I think that's a very good point. It's where sentiments that are not related to education specifically are influencing the state of education in India. And of course, like you said, pushing away funds into the topic. But that is again slightly off topic, so we'll discuss that perhaps on a later date. But it's a good session, something we'll maybe think about as a topic for the next discussion. Shraddha, please go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, Tanya is equalizing the English with the skill education. Like the skills and English are two different things, and skill education can still be happen in other languages. Like we have 70% of our population living in rural areas. Also, we have over 70% population engaged in MSME sector. And in the MSME sector, you see there are vendors, street vendors, sabzi wale, local markets. They do not need English. They need actually the regional language for their business. So we cannot completely go shift to the English from the very primary education. And simultaneously, we are having English as a secondary language also at the primary level. Like Tanya, we are not totally shifting to the regional language. Even from the class first to eighth, we are keeping English as a second language as well. And apart from that, you are saying that we have to spend a lot of on the pedagogy and the infrastructure and textbook. But I guess the system which we are favoring in this discussion, we already have the system in India. We are already teaching the regional language in the primary education, and we do not need new teachers or the new training because every teacher knows his or her regional language, and textbooks are available at the primary level in the regional languages. So I do not think any such different step has to be taken. And that recent question Krish just presented, that till which class we should focus on the language. So I'm not understanding, Krish, what are you talking exactly about? Are you talking about the extra two papers which we have, English and Hindi, which we already
No,
have
no,
in our
I'm
colleges
not even
also?
talking
Are you
about.
talking about?
I'm not talking about that at all. I'm basically saying, okay, so when you study English, right? Let's be all. I'm 90% sure everybody here has done English in their 12th grade. You have two books. You're completing them, and regardless of how easy you see the paper, it is still work. You need to go through that process. So if you're adding one regional language and one, another, language like Hindi to it, you have four more books. That means two more exams that you have to write in your 12th standard. For that matter, even in your 10th standard. So do you really
Yeah.
want
So
people to,
so you are talking
so at
about
what
that,
level,
na?
at what
That two
point do you say
extra
that
papers of language,
not just two
English
extra
and
papers,
Hindi, which we
extra,
have
no,
in.
no, no, no. We don't already have, we have, I think, compulsorily Hindi and English in 10th, in CBSE at least. We don't have it in 12th. And the question is not only about one paper, it's about the extra workload that comes in as well. So how long do you think it should be
So yeah,
included? Of course, that's
so
just,
these two languages we have, these two language papers which we already have given in even our colleges also. There was always the English and Hindi paper till college, and in 12th we get a choice to, like English was compulsory in 12th also, but we have a choice to either select Hindi or physical education or sports.
I think that may be slightly past in the past because I personally have not given a Hindi exam since 8th. The last Hindi exam I
Okay.
gave was my 8th final. I have not had Hindi as a subject since then. And in 10th, as far as all I know, all of my classmates had the option to leave Hindi and take just English for 11th and 12th.
Okay, but in CBSE, in actually Kendriya Vidyalaya, we do not have that option. We have
In
only in the
CBSE.
11th and 12th that we can opt
Uh,
either Hindi or sports or physical education. And in colleges, it was compulsory to have two papers, Hindi and English. That was foundational Hindi and English, and that was for everybody, every
I,
stream.
I don't think that's the case anymore. As far as I know, there's no language requirements to most schools that I have applied to
No,
at least
it is
because
there.
if there is there, then I'm not getting into any college. My Hindi is abhorrent.
No,
But
and I think
I
that
think if it
And I think that if people are learning their own language till class 8, then they can manage that language till their graduation also. You already know your language. So how will it be difficult for you in 10th or in 12th?
Okay, I think that this might be a personal issue for me then because I cannot write or read Hindi for the life of me. Um, but yeah, thanks for raising that, Shraddha. I was not aware of the
Yeah.
fact that some colleges and schools are continuing that throughout. Okay, I think
Okay.
moving
I
back to some of the questions.
Can I add
Yeah,
one point? Yeah. So in ICSE school, there is like no mandatory ki you have to read Hindi or Bengali. Like in it, like in state, I'm talking about West Bengal. So in any West Bengal ICSE, I mean in any ICSE school in West Bengal, it's not made mandatory that after class 10 you have to read Hindi or like Bengali, but English is there. And the second thing that Shraddha mentioned is that I am not completely like completely slashing the fact that that the English, I mean, sorry, the Hindi shouldn't be there or any other regional language shouldn't be there and English should be the only medium. No, I'm just saying that if the entire like the world is there, like everyone is striving, everyone is moving behind how to have strong hold on English, then why the foundational study or education should be in some other language? Of course, the retention or the comprehensive factor becomes very important when we are learning in mother tongue, but or also in Hindi. But then I believe that like from the childhood, if we do not learn, then afterwards it will be a problem. And I have seen most of my friends or like or people who come from maybe a Bengali medium background, they actually struggle in talking in English, okay, talking or maybe writing. Like all of it till class 5 we are focusing on Hindi medium, we are focusing on mother tongue, and then class 6 say or maybe 8 say we are all of a sudden we were bombarded with English literature like Shakespeare and Tolstoy and other grammar, Ray and Martin. So it becomes very difficult for students to maybe cope up with those things. Yes, in primary education English like will be there, and English medium is there like literature in it, but then the English that we are reading, like the students will be reading in primary education, is very different from what they will read in the higher education. So that will become a problem. And since in ICSE, in most ICSE and CBSE school, English is a like comes, it's a mandatory best in 4 or maybe best in 5 subject. So, and even in most of the college educations and also in entrance examinations, especially in college education, English is taken, in the marks of the English is taken for evaluation, whether you will, in order to get your name in the merit list or not. So, yeah.
I think the point you made about people having weaker languages later is very valid. For me personally, it was I had Hindi. At home, I spoke English. I learned English at school, and my Hindi is absolutely useless. I have tried to study it. It just does not work for me. So I think the idea of having a foundation in one language is very important because then that language goes on to uh, stay with you for life. Because regardless of what people may say, it is very hard to suddenly change into another language after you've been studying one language for the majority of your childhood. Please,
Like
Shraddha, go ahead.
in my school,
Go
I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
I am Bengali, my mother tongue is Bengali. My second language was Hindi because I was born in Bihar, and my first language is English. So like in that case, like I have read Bengali, my mother tongue, till class 8. But that does not mean that I do not know my mother tongue, or I haven't learned about it, or I do not have hold like a strong hold in my mother tongue. Of course, I have learned 3 languages. So, and this language system, like it was the same. Like first language is English, and then maybe Hindi and Bengali, it interchanges. So that does not mean that we are prioritizing one over another. So yeah, but we are giving equal priority, but my entire education was in English. But yeah, so that is somewhere or the other, it helps me in these things.
I think objectively, yes, because I believe that it's easier for me at least to have more opportunities and just find it easier to communicate because of the fact that I have better English. Shraddha, please go ahead.
Okay, Tanya I already mentioned that she learned Bengali in school till class 8. Yes, yes, Tanya. So it didn't compromise your English, no? You already know how to speak English and you speak very well, but still you learned Bengali in your school. So how can you say that if we do not focus on English and will give primacy to the regional language, it will compromise with the English skills later on in the life? You learned English, I learned English, and
I
everybody
think
knew a group.
Shraddha, Tanya was saying that her primary language for learning was English. She had learned in English. The
But she
secondary
had
language
learned
was
Bengali
Bengali
also.
in school.
So
That
which
was a
language
secondary
Tanya
language. That was
used
not
for
her
the
primary
understanding?
language.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
it
which
was.
language she used to understand the very primary education she got? English or Bengali?
English and then Hindi and then Bengali.
Okay, so
I
you start.
studied, yeah, I studied Hindi till class 12. Even I have given exam, Hindi exam in class 12, and now it is changing because I passed out in 2018. And like in class 10 also, like I gave Hindi, but there was no Bengali. Bengali was there till class 8. That's it.
Okay, but I was saying that you learned English and Bengali also. So do you feel that if a children will not learn English from the very first class, they will compromise their English skills later on in life?
Yes, because since my mother tongue is Bengali, so I can hear, like, I listen Bengali since childhood, since from birth. And the students who are actually getting primary education in second language, that does not mean that at their home their family is speaking English, because we learn from like listening. So I have learned Bengali because it's in my blood. People from other religion, it's in their blood, and they will automatically learn that language. But English is something that is new to us. It is not our language, so we have to learn it from the childhood itself. That's my argument actually.
So no, okay. So what do you want? We should focus more on the regional language or the English language in the primary education.
I believe English and skill based education. That's it. Like in
Okay,
Singapore
and you
or in
feel that
South
if we
Korea.
give okay,
And yeah,
okay,
second, if
and you
there is second language as Hindi or like regional language, anybody can take. That should not be made enforced. Like in my schooling time, it was mandatory to read both Bengali as well as Hindi. So yeah, that should not be there, because that actually pressure, like it becomes a pressure, huge pressure on students. So yeah, at one time we are talking about implementing skill based education, and at the other time we are talking about adding more subjects based on languages. So
no,
yeah.
but we are not introducing the
Okay,
skills. We are like doing the
guys. I think we've been on this
okay.
question for a very long
Yeah,
time.
for too long.
For
Yeah,
now,
let's move
yeah, for
ahead.
now, let's just quickly move on to some other question. Okay, I think I had mentioned between what and Tanya also talking about what we hear at home. So, do you think education should in a way, should schools and teachers promote parents to start talking more in either regional, regardless, in one language, so that their children can also, learn that language more verbally spoken just outside of school as well? If so, how could schools encourage parents to be involved in this form of making people better at language, making their children better at language? I think just to quickly recap, as my question was slightly rambling, we learn from hearing stuff around us, right? So, especially at our homes. So, how do you think that schools could maybe encourage people to improve their parents to improve the language skills of their children by speaking either in different languages at home or uh, expressing further better vocabulary? If so, how
Are
could it
you
be encouraged?
specifically talking about English?
Any language, even your own, even your mother tongue.
Okay, actually, I don't feel that to learn English, you have to start it from the very start and you have to feed your 4-year kid English just to make him understand English and to make him fluent in English. I did not learn English from the very start, but still I am speaking enough English. You are also everyone in our group. I don't think anybody's first language is English in general. But it did not compromise the English skills at the later stage of my life.
I think yes, to a standard level, I would say that that is true. But from personal experience, from what I have seen, my English is usually better than my peers. There isn't, and then of course, then the issue comes in for me at least, where when you have competitions, inter-school, interstate competitions, people pick people who are good at English. That means that people who are not as good at English don't get enough opportunities. So, as a narrow to another question, do you think we should either increase the manner of the such competitions in other languages, or do you think it's better to just improve English so that more people can participate in these? So that's the general question. Should we have more such competitions or speaking competitions at an inter-school level in different languages, or just improve people's English? Which do you think would be the better option?
Okay, so I personally think I know first of all there is a that's a good quality books in regional languages. I had a few classmates back in college who came from Bengali medium school. So there was a breadth of good literature in Bengali or say in Hindi or Marathi or any regional languages you can think of. So even for this, there even if you take for instance MUN, you need good English, right? You need even if you're talking about Olympiads or anything as such, a good background in English or a strong sense of command in a language is needed for you to do better than your peers. So, yeah, and I think what was the question again? I think I'm deviating from the topic.
No, yeah, no, no, sir. Should we instead promote like competitions in different languages?
Oh,
Not just in English.
yeah, I think okay. So the first step should be coming up with better quality books and enough literature in hand. And apart from that, uh, yeah, competitions. See, we do have Hindi Divas in India, right? I don't remember the date. It's I think 21st October or something. So our school personally, we had these poem competitions and essay competitions in Hindi. So that did push students to work harder in the given language, Nepal. So I am from West Bengal, we have Nepali here. So there were competitions, rap poem competitions or Niban competitions. So that does help, but I think we need more state level or national level initiatives on that part. And uh, yeah, so that could work. Or just coming up with better, I think school can initiate parents, teachers, conferences or counseling sessions. For if you're talking about primary education, for instance, they could come up with some counseling sessions where parents could be encouraged to teach their kids that bilingual being bilingual or multilingual is always good for the child's development. So yeah, we could encourage them to counseling meetings or gender. I think even the government can come up with programs, and I think there are certain programs in certain states, right, where they have advertised it from TV to radio, FMs and all. So, or even in the print media, I've seen ads. So yeah, all this could lead up to a better status of the given regional language, but we have a long way to go. And I would also kind of like to add the implicit bias towards English just in our household. There is a certain bias, right? Our parents prefer the parents are not just my parents or your parents. Parents in general they prefer their kids having a strong hold on the language. So this implicit bias plus the very political role implementation of a language to its expertise in case of India. You know, what am I saying? So I would just like to point out the political aspect of it and also the national bias that comes with it comes in regard to that. I think you
I
should
think,
like
yeah.
I should talk about the political bias. That's a very, very, very important point here. So, yeah, just the politicization of the whole thing, and
Mhm.
and also the number of languages available. And for instance, if I'll go again with West Bengal, we have many languages here, right? I was reading an article about some school in Mizoram or somewhere. So, okay, so Assam. So in Assam, there are many communities, but even kids from say Nepali background or Pahari background. Kids, kids of various backgrounds are going for Assamese language schools. So that too is a question. It's about the number of regional languages available in a given state or in an area, and the uh, politicization. You're getting me right. The government finds it very difficult to choose a language because if you're talking about a small district like Sri we have many languages. The government will find it very, very, very difficult to come up with five different language schools, or five different options, and just recruiting teachers and the entire staffing thing. That too, it's just the nuances here. These are smaller issues, but these two add up to bigger problems. Yeah.
Thanks for the points, Samriti. And I think you've raised a lot of points that we did not even really consider before this. And I think this empirical bias, sorry, the bias you're mentioning toward which parents have, I think that again comes down to parents wanting their children to have skills. And fortunately or unfortunately, most jobs that are technically pay high require someone to English. Shraddha, please go ahead.
Okay, so I feel that yes, there should be different competitions and what you said? What should we have?
Competitions in
Different
different
competitions?
languages.
Yeah, so we should have in different language,
Yeah.
whatever the language we are learning at the school level, because I feel we are emphasizing too much on English. And because of this English, I think we will be left just with English and we will forget all the language behind. So I feel that okay, English is important, but because of English, if you want to keep English up, why are you belittling the different languages? You can practice more English, no? Why are you saying that drop Hindi or drop other language? Just practice more English if you want to learn English. So we should have both the languages. It's not like in today's time, various youngsters they just boast that they do not know Hindi and they do not understand it. And I feel perplexed that why are they so casually saying it that they do not understand Hindi. Like many a times there are forms in which Hindi is written. The whole form is in Hindi, and they just casually say that, "Oh, I do not understand what is written in the form. Why do not they translate it in English?" So you should have the basic knowledge of the language, at least your mother tongue. Yes, that's it.
I think, okay, of course, I'm biased. I'm one of those kids you talk about, right? But I think it's not right to criticize someone for not knowing a language because you learn language from the people around you, right? Not everybody lives in the same circumstances. Personally, I can speak English very, very well. I speak French and I speak Hindi. My verbal Hindi is perfectly fine. On the other hand, I know people who can barely speak English but are very, very good at Hindi. So I think it comes down to the fact where you can, like the logic you apply, especially, you can always practice English. You can always around you know it, whereas you do not always have people around you who know English well. So I think that's the point of personal bias, of course, comes to whatever you think is the better option. Isha, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I think like most of the discussion that was held, I think we focused a lot on having regional language as a subject in school. Like regional language or our mother tongue, even we speak at home, and as Tanya said, it's in our blood. So our parents are speaking it, our family is speaking it. So even if we discontinue having mother tongue as a subject after 8th or in high school or for higher education, we will still know our mother tongue or any language that we speak at home. Like for most of the people, we do not speak English at home. So I think dropping or discontinuing regional language as a subject in school will not have that much of an impact on our linguistic skills. That's what I think. Because discontinuing
I
it
think
as a
that's a
subject,
very,
yeah, so
I think that's a
discontinuing
very
it
good
as a
point, Isha,
subject,
where you
yeah.
know verbal English, verbally that you know language. But I think just to play the devil's advocate slightly here, when it comes to learning a subject, you don't only learn how to speak it. You learn about the literature and the history behind that subject, right? So if you're not studying about it, you may know how to learn it well, but you may not know what was a seminal work in that language. What were the great authors of that language? And it may not always be a very well-rounded education. That fact. I think you raised a very good point where it comes to just familiarity with the language. Regional languages are well best learned from the people around you. Tanya, please go ahead.
I'm very sorry. I actually forgot what I was supposed to say. I'm very sorry. Just give me a few more
That's fine.
seconds. Yeah.
That's fine. I don't think this. I don't have any more. I'm pretty much out of questions. So, oh, okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So, looking from a political aspect, I just want to raise one question: is the languages or maybe popularizing the languages of the minorities is helping the minorities in general? Are they? Is the just the language factor is protecting the minorities? Is the language factor giving, or maybe because of the implementation of the language factor is stopping the discrimination that is that happens against the minorities? So this is I believe that actually this topic is very contested, that as I have mentioned earlier. So again, to reiterate, and I'll repeat continuously, that I am not completely slashing off any languages or maybe discontinue any languages, but there are there are many other sources apart from textbooks for learning other languages as well. Now we have podcasts, we have books, we have our families to know more about that particular language or maybe the literature. So yeah, and it's not that there are students, even I have seen that there are students who have learned who had their entire education in English, but then also they cannot speak. And also I have seen students who have had their entire education in Hindi, they can also speak in English. Okay, so what I like to sum up, for so long what I have been emphasizing is that if you want to make mother tongue mandatory from 1 to 5, then I think that side by side, parallelly, there should be any course on English, and not focusing everything on mother tongue education. Because in child, it's a psychology that till the age of 14, the child's brain develops. So after 14, the child's brain actually does not develop. It's a science. So till 14, the child can grasp as much as information that we throw. It's not that we'll overburden them, but yeah, we can grasp. But as long as we grow up, it automatically, our brain cells, it changes, so we work accordingly. So if in the childhood, in the foundational stage, there should be, if it's an English school, well and good, then there should be focus on Hindi. As I have read, my schooling was that I did my entire schooling in English, and then Hindi was my second language. I gave exams in Hindi. I know Hindi literature, and also I know Bengali. And if any school or maybe the state boards, they have mother tongue as their languages, then parallelly they should also conduct maybe another classes for English, maybe grooming classes, that most nowadays there are huge organization or companies that they are profiting from only because of English. Profiting, take the example of Franklin, right? All these management course organization, yes, they mostly teach English. They give this promise that if you know English, you will get jobs here, you'll get job in aviation, in management, this and that. So they are actually commercializing this language system. So if it is done from the beginning only, if there is a maybe a counseling, or I won't say counseling, it's like an extracurricular. If I'm talking about the state boards, if any school is following mother tongue or maybe Hindi, then they should keep an extra like curricular for English language just. So yeah, maybe it can
Yeah,
be of any form, kind of debate or maybe like poetry classes or anything. That's
exactly. I think it's
Thanks for
about
your point, then.
fueling, fueling, interest, and it should not be forced upon anyone. Even if it's, there are so many languages in our country. So I think it's on the state and the government to create opportunities, and they should have a space for people who specialize in a particular language, and enough opportunities and jobs should be created in that realm, I believe. And apart from that, nothing should be, as Tanya pointed out, it's on us. You can know four languages and not be good at, you might not specialize in any one of those, or you could be very strong, you could have a very strong hold on one given language, right? So it's about fueling on the interest of the given individual and creating opportunities and translating good literature. Yeah, that's a very important point. And schools too should focus on that. And there should not be any, stigma around the subject of language and no uh, victim blaming. Not victim, but no blaming or any harsh feeling towards a person with, specialization in certain language. Yeah. Anything else? Anyone else? Else, would you like to say something? Add on to the points already that it's already been discussed.
regarding the literature thing that you have mentioned, it's just a general discussion. Like Samriddhi also, she is from West Bengal, I guess. Yeah, she is in Jadavpur, and I am from Calcutta University. So if we go to the library, like in my library also, which is like they claim that one of the biggest library in West
Yeah,
Bengal, this and that. Both of our universities claim that, but how many Bengali books are there?
it's not there. It's
There is
not there. I have seen
exactly.
my classmates struggling.
Yeah, they struggle, like people from west like coming from the Bengali medium, they actually struggle and they like what to write, like the professors, they deliver lectures in English and they
In
translate it, so that is an again an extra work. So yeah.
So in my college, in my classes, but if we talk about my classes, so they had this bilingual thing, okay? They went for both Hindi and Bangla. And so the problem here is there were Nepali students who were not comfortable with Bengali. So that too is a problem. And literature, so the professors usually give out the uh, leaflets, right? Leaflets and pamphlets were shared, and they were not in Hindi. Sorry, they were not in Hindi or Bangla, and there were problems regarding our notes as well. So everything is there. They just add on one, you know, over the other, and create this whole cycle of anxiety for students, and they suffered a lot. I've seen my classmates struggling, so that's really sad. Calcutta University actually, even Jadavpur, we have this thing about we have. Let's not go to the university if my friends want to. Yeah. Moving on.
Yeah, I mean
Uh,
totally, like not for like that's it,
It's
that's
a
why I,
struggle. It's a
yeah,
struggle.
that's why like I was so much not biased, that I am emphasizing much on English so that people do not like suffer at like coming in higher education. So yeah, but again, if you are doing it in English, maybe then the entire system would be in English. We are doing it in Hindi, then don't make English as your mandatory subject. Do not include English in your best of four subject,
And
if
now
that is
they're
the case.
going forward with medical and engineering degrees in Hindi, right? If I'm not wrong. I think they are. Yeah. So the government is going for a full-fledged medical and engineering degree in Hindi, and that gets created, uh, uh, some troubles in the academic circle regarding there are those what do I call it? There are those become general debates regarding this because if just imagine, okay, we'll just wrap up after this. So the problem with introducing Hindi or any regional language in for a course in university level, the problem here is the student cannot follow up for higher education in say for any other foreign country. There's this problem there, and apart from that, uh, people go for journals and research papers, right? So they'll have a much smaller audience. They'll have they'll also face problem with scholarships abroad and just even the scope of PhD. So your work won't be approved by foreign panelists, and it's a whole other debate. So yeah, literature it's all stammering. Yeah, please go ahead.
Thanks for your point. Thanks for, I think, great discussion we had, especially at the end, and the overall a great discussion where we were able to look at a variety of viewpoints. So I think, thank you everyone for sharing your views and answering the questions